Welcome to today's lesson. In this lesson, we will create our first file, understand key terms, and explore what can be done with Sheets in Google Sheets. By the end of this session, you'll have a solid grasp of how to work with sheets, cells, and ranges, as well as how to protect important data from accidental changes. On the Start screen, click on Blank Spreadsheet to open a new file. In front of us, we see an empty spreadsheet. Tables are stored in sheets. Currently, our empty table is located in Sheet 1, which is indicated at the bottom. At the very top, there is a file name, currently Untitled Spreadsheet. Let's rename it to My First Spreadsheet by double-clicking on the name field and entering the new title. A table consists of columns, A, B, C, etc., and rows, 1, 2, 3, etc. The intersection of a column and a row forms a cell. The name of a cell is formed by combining its column letter and row number. For example, if the column is E and the row is 5, then the cell's name is E5. Clicking on any cell with the mouse selects it. Its borders turn blue, and a small blue circle appears in the bottom right corner. We will discuss this later. If you want to quickly identify which cell you have selected without looking for it manually, check the top left corner above the table where the selected cell's name is displayed. You can select multiple cells at once. This is called a range, sometimes referred to as an array in certain functions. To select multiple cells, click on one, then hold down the left mouse button and drag across the desired cells. You will now see a range instead of a single cell name in the top left corner. Ranges are written using a colon between the first and last cell in the selection. For example, selecting cells A1 to C7 will be displayed as A1 to C7. Selections are usually rectangular, but you can select multiple non-adjacent ranges as well. To do this, first select one range, then on Windows, hold down Ctrl, and select another range. To select all cells in the sheet, click on the top left rectangle between the first row and first column. This highlights all cells in blue. To select an entire column or row, simply click on its header. For example, clicking on column B will highlight the entire column, and clicking on row 3 will highlight the entire row. You can assign names to selected ranges, making formulas more understandable. You can learn how to name a range in one of the videos. The link is in the top right corner. Briefly, you need to click on the arrow next to the selected range and choose Manage Named Ranges. This is useful in formulas to better understand which range of cells is being used. To enter data into a cell, simply click on it and start typing. For example, let's enter the number 2 into a cell and press Enter or click elsewhere in the table. To edit an existing value, double-click the cell and change the content. For example, if we change 2 to 23, we simply type 3 at the end. To delete a value, select the cell and press Delete on your keyboard. Rows and columns can be adjusted in width and height accordingly. To do this, click on the border between two columns or rows and drag it in the desired direction. The width of columns and the height of rows can also be adjusted to fit the cell contents. This means the column width and row height will match the content inside the cells. For example, let's enter a few values in column A. Apple, banana. Now, double-click the border between this column and the next one, and its width will automatically adjust to fit the longest value. The same works for rows. There is another way to adjust sizes. Hover over the column name until a small arrow appears to the right of it. You can also right-click the column name. Click on the arrow and select Resize Column. Here, you can manually set the width in pixels or choose Fit to Data and click OK. The same method applies to rows. Just follow the same steps for resizing row height. You can check how many selected values there are in the bottom right corner of the screen. For example, If we select the first and second rows of column A, we will see Count 2. It's important to note that only non-empty cells are counted. If a cell is empty and contains no value, it will not be included in the count. If you select multiple empty cells, you will notice that the count does not change. You can perform standard operations such as deleting, cutting, copying, and pasting on columns, rows, cells, values, and ranges. These actions can be done using keyboard shortcuts. Ctrl+C, copy. Ctrl+V, paste. Ctrl+X, cut. These options are also available by right-clicking on a column, row, or cell and selecting the desired action. For example, let's select cell A1 and right-click. In the menu, we can see options like Cut, Copy, Paste, and Delete. Additionally, there are options to insert a new row above or a new column to the left. In the Row and Column menu, you can also choose between deleting and clearing. Clear removes only the values inside the column or row. Delete completely removes the column or row along with all its values. If you accidentally delete something, don't worry. You can click Undo or press Ctrl+Z to revert the action. Click Redo or press Ctrl+Y to redo it if needed. If you're working in a team, you can view the edit history of a cell to see who made changes and when. To do this, select Show Edit History, and you will see who modified the cell, when, and what changes were made. Columns and rows can also be hidden. One way to do this is by dragging the border between two rows or columns until the adjacent ones merge. However, a more convenient method is to right-click on a column or row and select Hide Column or Hide Row. When a column or row is hidden, two small arrows will appear at the border, indicating that there is hidden data. Clicking on these arrows will make the hidden column or row visible again. In this lesson, we are covering basic operations with columns, rows, and cells without going too deep. At this stage, we are just exploring, much like entering a new building or arriving at a new place. We are looking around to understand our surroundings before actively interacting with them. The goal of this lesson is to understand where we are and what each element represents. Now let's see what we can do with sheets in our file. You can think of a Google Sheets file as a book. A book has separate pages, and each page contains individual stories. Similarly, in Google Sheets, the file is like a book. The sheets are like pages. The tables on each sheet are like different stories. Currently, we have only one sheet, but we can easily add another one by clicking on the plus button at the bottom. Now, we have two sheets. Next to the plus button, there is a sheet menu, Hamburger menu. This menu is useful when you have many sheets and need to quickly switch between them. Let's add multiple sheets. Now, we see that they no longer fit at the bottom, and navigation arrows have appeared on the right. We can use these arrows to scroll through the sheets, but using the sheet menu is often more convenient. If you have only a few sheets, switching is easy. Just click on the sheet name at the bottom. To delete multiple sheets at once, click on any sheet. Hold Shift and select the additional sheets to delete. Right-click and choose Delete. A confirmation prompt will appear. Click OK to confirm. If you want to delete non-adjacent sheets, hold Ctrl instead of Shift and select the sheets, then delete them. You can name sheets however you like. Double-click on a sheet name and enter a new one, or right-click and select Rename. For example, let's rename Sheet 4 to Prices and Sheet 2 to Sales. You can change the order of sheets by clicking and dragging a sheet to a new position, or right-clicking on a sheet and selecting Move Left or Move Right. Now, let's check what options are available in the Sheet menu. Right-click on any sheet to open the Sheet menu. We can see that a sheet can be duplicated. Click on Duplicate, and an exact copy of the sheet will be created. Note that sheets cannot have identical names, so before the name Prices, the system automatically adds Copy of. You can test this by trying to remove the Copy of text. It won't allow it. Returning to the Sheet menu, we can copy a sheet to a new file. If you select Copy to New Spreadsheet, Google Sheets will create a new file containing this sheet. If you select Copy to Existing Spreadsheet, Google will suggest a list of files you have access to, where you can add this sheet. You can also assign a color to a sheet. This refers to the tab color at the bottom. To do this, open the Sheet menu and select Change Color. Choose a standard color, remove color, or set a custom color using the color picker. If your spreadsheet contains colored cells, you can use the eyedropper tool to pick a color. You can also add a custom color using RGB or hex values and click OK. A colored stripe will appear under the sheet name. Another action you can perform is hiding a sheet. To do this, open the Sheet menu and select Hide Sheet. To restore a hidden sheet, open the Sheet menu, Hamburger menu, and select it from the list. If there is a comment counter next to a sheet's name, it means that comments exist on that sheet. To view them, click on View Comments, and a comment panel will appear on the right. These are pending comments, meaning they have not been marked as resolved. For example, there might be a comment like Add banana prices. If you or a teammate add the prices and mark the comment as resolved, it will disappear from this list. If you want to view resolved comments, you won't find them in this menu. Instead, go to View, then Comments. Then show all comments or click on the comment icon in the top right corner, to the left of the camera icon. The final topic of this lesson is sheet protection. Let's go through an example. This feature is especially useful for teams where multiple people work on the same file. However, sometimes it's useful to protect data even from yourself, since we are all human and can accidentally change something. In our example, we have two sheets: Sales Report, Employee Work Hours. To protect a sheet, right-click on the Sheet tab. Select Protect Sheet. Let's assume we allow edits to everything except the total sales column. Instead of blocking changes, we want to show a warning first. This way, team members can still edit the data, but they will see a message before proceeding. Let's write the following message. This sheet contains automatic calculations. Be careful when editing to avoid errors. Edit only the sales columns, not total sales. Next, we select Range, specify the range that should not be modified, and click OK. Now, let's set up a warning. Click Set Permissions. Select Show a warning when editing this range. Click Done. Now, let's try changing a value in total sales. As we can see, the warning message appears, but the data can still be edited. To remove this protection, simply click on the protection rule and then on the trash bin icon. Instead of just a warning, we can fully restrict editing so that changes are not allowed. We follow the same steps, but when setting up protection, we select Restrict who can edit this range. Here we have several options. Only you can edit. You and selected teammates can edit. To do this, choose Custom and add the people allowed to edit. Click Done to apply the settings. Now, anyone not included in the allowed list will not be able to modify the protected cells. So far, we've talked about protecting a column. but we can also protect an entire sheet. To do this, instead of selecting a range, we select the entire sheet. For example, we can add a description, Sales Data Protection. At this stage, we can exclude certain columns from protection. For instance, we might allow editing comments while protecting everything else. The protection settings work the same way as for ranges. Once protection is applied, a lock icon will appear next to the sheet name, indicating that it is protected. Let's look at a setting we haven't explored yet. We go to the second sheet, open the protection settings and name it Work Hours Protection. This time, instead of manually setting permissions, we select Copy Permissions from another range. A list of existing protected ranges will appear. Since we already have a protected sheet, we can apply the same settings to this sheet with one click. Click Done, and the protection settings are applied automatically. That's it! In this lesson, we covered basic operations with cells, columns, rows, and sheets. We also introduced sheet protection to safeguard important data. See you next time.